Hi folks, I haven't been on here in about a week, and I was just going to do a brief update, and then I want to talk about one particular thing. Gardens are kind of, the lima beans are climbing all over. I had some beans, not very many. The deer haven't been back in that garden though, because the blood meal is still keeping them out. I've watched mama deer and their little baby fawns, newborn fawns, running around here. So they're everywhere here. The main garden, what I call the house garden, because it's closest to the house, where I have my bell peppers planted and my tomatoes planted, and it's doing so-so. I mean, I don't have but a couple of tomatoes on all the plants. There are blooms, but there's not a lot of tomatoes yet. They're slow growing, and we had now somebody said it might be cutworms, but I thought it was tunneling creatures because I kept having to stamp down the tunnels, the ridges they make when they tunnel. And I've seen a couple of holes, exit holes in the garden. So I've had to deal with that. And I just, I put the blood meal out, but then I also put the crushed dried eggshells around all the tomatoes. So far, no other problems with that. However, I got a pack of gladiolus bulbs this year, and I planted them years ago, and then one would come up every couple of years, and that would be all that I would get, because I thought, well, they're just cheap bulbs, and the ground was kind of hard there. So over the last winter, it was conditioned, and then I thought, I'm just going to plant some new bulbs. So when I planted the bulbs, they all came up, plus several that weren't in the package. So the conditioning of the soil over the winter was actually good. Well, I went out there and they're all kind of leaning like this. And I go pick it up and there's no bulb attached. The critters, they're going under there and they're eating all the bulbs that I just planted. I don't know if I'll get any glads. I had like 15 plants. I think I might have 10 left, if that. It is what it is. I live in the woods with creatures. And, you're battling all the time. I think what I'm going to have to do, if I'm going to have a bulb garden that I want, I'm going to have to plant them in baskets, in wire baskets, so things can't tunnel up to the bulb. That's the only thing I know to do. But this year is probably a wash. I'm not going to sweat it. Nothing I can do about it. And the lima beans, we're going to have lima beans and whatnot. So my flower garden's gone crazy. There's a lot of flowers in the garden. My little splash bantam coaching Luna, she's still with us, but she's still not acting right. She still acts very sleepy. She can't fight for food. She can't compete with food. For food with other birds. I'm not doing so well in my words this morning. You'll understand why in just a minute. But she's still with me. Bash is still with me. No further deaths, but I think I'm going to lose Luna pretty soon. It's just one of those things that you just can't figure. She's only 3 years old. For every couple of deaths that you expect of old age, there's always the one you never expected. That always happens. And it's just nothing to treat. Her feather quality is gorgeous. She's soft as velvet. She's obviously losing weight. I can feel her. She's light and she's very tired. So I don't know why. I don't know. It happens. You can't always fix things. In fact, you can rarely fix things with chickens. Some of the things that happen to them. Okay, this week was stressful. Very stressful. I had a car with one of those disgusting, horribly unreliable CVT transmissions, continuously variable transmission. Nissan put those in there. Nissan had a bunch of those. But then now all these brands, including some luxury brands, are putting that very unreliable transmission. I mean, they usually crap out at 50,000 miles. 50,000 to less than 100,000 miles. The SUV I bought it with cash 9 years ago. And yeah, I bought it with cash 9 years ago. And within a year, now they gave a 1-year warranty on basic stuff. And my husband's coming back from visiting his brother in hospice, and right in front of the dealership, transmission goes out, and he limps into the dealer, and because it was under warranty, hang on, Sorry, and I'll tell you who that was in a minute. If I can remember. Okay. The transmission on the SUV went out within the first year warranty. As they tend to do, it was under 100,000 miles, it went out. So apparently they replaced it, okay? But I'm sure they didn't replace it with a new one because first, it's very expensive and they were paying for it. Second, except for $100 deductible, they were paying for it. And I've since learned, according to a lot of mechanics, that you can't really rebuild those. They have to just be a new one. And they put a couple in trying it out, so they had to find the right one. I'm thinking, no, they're getting used. They're getting used parts. So they're paying for it. I can't dictate. So they're putting in it. So they replaced it. We're only about 27,000 miles past that, and we're already having problems. We're already having problems with it. And then, you know, if you spend $4,000 to $5,000 on a brand new transmission for the thing, which is, the car was only worth in a trade like at the most $1,800. I mean, this car had a lot of miles, not a lot, but decent amount of miles on it for, I mean, it slowed down when we bought it because we drive about 3,000 miles a year total, I think. But it was acting odd, and even a new one doesn't have a very long life. So I said, why would we spend that much money on a car that's not even worth that if we sold it? And definitely not worth that if we trade it. Why would we spend money on that? So I said, I researched all kinds of car lots around here. Meanwhile, decided what I wasn't going to pay as far as their junk fees in a contract, because at this point we've divested ourselves of about $12,000 of our cash. If I hadn't had to do that for the various other things like the heat pump, cleaning the roof, a new dryer, which was insanely, it's 15 years old. I guess I got my use out of it, but it was squealing every time you do, you know, it was just a mess. Not worth fixing that either. Buy the half cow that costs $1,800. It'll probably last us 8 months or something for me and him, because that's all we eat is meat. If that wasn't all we eat, it would last longer. But anyway, I ended up with $12,000 cash gone from my accounts. And here I am needing a new car, or need to put a very expensive repair on a car that's not really worth it. A 2013 is not, 128,000 miles or something like that. So I said, well, I researched all the car lots. I said, I decided which one they had that we might be interested in. And it kind of boiled down to basically 2 vehicles at 2 different dealers. And let me give you a hint. If you are doing a research to buy a vehicle, go to www.carcomplaints.com. That is where you can find out the worst year of a car, depending on the year, make, model, and it'll tell you what the most problems were with that car, and if you can actually find specifically what those problems were with the people had reported. And then you even get people who are able to add to their information as to what happened to them. Carcomplaints.com is the best place to research any vehicle before you buy it. I mean, this can sound like a great vehicle, and then all of a sudden you look and it's got, it doesn't have many complaints, but the complaints are engine or transmission. Okay, so you can do good research, and I researched everything that they had that I might be interested in, and I crossed off everything except 2 vehicles. And one was a small SUV, which I swear I haven't had a new car I've never had a new car. Okay, I've never had a new one. The most I've had is one that's like 2 years old. A fleet car that had a lot of miles on it. And I drove my Chevy Lumina for 20 years. I had a Chevy Celebrity before that in real estate, and when that got too many miles, I bought a Lumina, Chevy Lumina, and I drove that for 20 years, and it wasn't new when I got it. So I'm not one to trade my cars around a lot. I'm not one to keep a car payment. Now, we had gotten a Honda SUV before the Rogue. And the Honda, we had a loan on it for a brief period of time, and then we paid that off really quick, and it was gone. Then I bought the Rogue with cash. And we hadn't had a car payment in all that time. We hadn't had any debt. I paid my mortgage off in the last year and a half, 2 years. I don't even know when it was now. So we don't have any debts. It was very hard to think about having to get into any debt that carried over from month to month. Even my credit cards, even if I put, a couple thousand on my credit cards, I pay it off every month. One credit card. I have one with a very high, fairly high limit on it. And I hope I never get up that high at these interest rates. I'm not carrying a balance with that interest rate. So anyway, we heard about, interest rates on cars, prices on cars. Apparently, new cars are finally starting to come down a little bit this year. Used cars. For a while there, new car, with their incentives and their lower interest rates, were just about as good a buy, except for the instant depreciation when you drive it off the lot, as the used cars. I think it's getting different now. So used car prices are coming down. I found this SUV, and it had pretty much what we wanted on it. It had comfort, and it was only 3 years old. It was more than I wanted to pay, because I'm not used to paying them kind of prices. It's crazy. I can't think of paying those kind of prices. I think the most I ever paid for a car was $15,000 my whole life, and that was the highest ever. Well, this was higher than that. Not as high as my first house, which was $34,900. I just can't wrap my head around paying more for a car that depreciates than I did for a house built by American Steel. So anyway, we drive the thing, and we hope that the transmission on this other car is going to not just conk out, because I know they're going to send it to auction. It's not something you would keep on your lot. It's a family truckster, let's put it that way. It's a runner. You put your hay and your stuff in the back, of course, in a bag, if it's hay, and you take your garbage to town with it. I mean, it's, and its seats were stained and, blah, blah, blah. The only problem it has was the stinking transmission. So, we didn't get anything for it, hardly. Didn't expect to, but I sure didn't want it sitting in my driveway anymore. So, we traded it. The vehicle we found was priced, from what all my research, exactly where it should have been. It was it's a decent price. Not too far above wholesale. It's a very good price for that particular vehicle. Has a very good reputation. CarComplaints.com, it's almost non-existent problems with it. Okay, so, and I know when they've been on there, when you've had a model car for it's been around for 40 years. There's going to be a lot of complaints because it's over all that time period. But almost no complaints, nothing. So, like I said, it's 3 years old. So we go in there, and I'm expecting to fight all the junk fees that they add in. The additional dealer markups and gap insurance and all the crud that they try to sell you. And we didn't have to do any of that. They only had the usual doc fees, the document fees, and they weren't exorbitant. And I'm like, my husband says, is there anything in this that's actually not in that's not listed here on this piece of paper? I said, no, we don't want to do that. I said, we don't play around with that stuff. He said, and in addition, this particular dealer gives a lifetime, as long as you own the vehicle you bought from them, a warranty, which you don't pay for, you don't have to pay extra for, on the engine and the transmission, and they give you the first oil change free. Oil changes are pricey now, but in trying to negotiate better, we ended up getting 2 extra free oil changes from the dealer. And because my credit, this is what I want to talk to you about, this credit thing. That phone call was the insurance people. My husband had to go to the insurance place to change the car from one to the other, and their computers were all down, and the lady was calling from her house. She was trying to do it on her own home computer or something. I've had this company for 22 years. They're the ones that paid out on my house fire and everything. But anyway, it was a pleasant experience. I mean, there was zero pressure to do anything. In fact, we looked at this before. We hadn't really looked at this vehicle. We looked at another one in the lot, and it's not too far from us. And we knew they had gave this warranty. That's their thing. They've been a top dealer here for 5 years running, and they're not the biggest dealer, which is interesting. But you know, we talked to this guy. He gave us his card, and you know, for what it is, it's a Kia dealer. And people don't want to see me coming because I walk in there and say, well, you know, they want to know what they can help you find. And I said, well, I know this is a terrible thing to say here, but I don't want a Kia. I came for your used cars, okay? I don't want a Kia. And of course, they had this almost new version of the one I'm getting rid of. And I said, and it was, I mean, it only had 28,000 miles on it for 2020 or 2021, one or the other. That's great, but guess what? It has that CVT transmission. It's like, no. The problem is they're putting those in everything. Always check your transmission. This one we bought has an 8-speed automatic trans. It's all-wheel drive. It's a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine, just like the car we're trading in, and almost the same as our Honda CR-V. But the day we were cleaning out those cars, and well, first, it's a payment I didn't want to pay. And he says, well, this is 72 months. I said, oh, heck no, no more than 48 months just to get the, no, and we'll pay that off early. It's like, no, I'm not stretching that out for 72 months. Oh, no. In fact, if you finance something for 72 months, you shouldn't be buying it in the first place, in my opinion. That's just me. I'm frugal. I know how to save money, that kind of thing. And, you know, even the payment's higher. But you're paying less interest even if you stretch out to 4 years. And, you know, the interest rate wasn't terrible, okay? I happened to find out that, you know, when you pay off all your debts, you know your credit score goes down, right? The more debt you carry, as long as you're doing payments on time, the more debt you carry, the higher your credit score. Although I don't know why it was high 9 years ago when I bought the other car with cash, they had to check my credit because I was giving them a check. And the guy comes back and his eyes are wide and he said, it was checking my personal credit, not my husband's. He said, because I was using a little bit of my money I got from my father's estate. Not much, it wasn't enough to buy the vehicle, trust me. It was less than half of the vehicle price. But, he said, do you know what your credit score is? I said, well, no, not exactly. He said, it's 850. He said, what we call that is a brick. You can go touch any car in this lot. Don't matter what car it is, what make, what brand, what price, you can buy it. So I went, okay, well, that's good, but I don't want any of those because they cost too much to insure. They cost too much to repair. I just don't want those. I don't want the luxury brands. So anyway, you know, that's how people get in trouble. Is a mortgage officer will say, well, you can afford this amount of money. Well, on paper it may look like that, but you got to know your spending habits, and if you want to save anything. I can qualify for a pretty big mortgage if I wanted to. I don't want to. And that's why I didn't want to do this. I was debt free. And I did say to the guy he's related to the family that owns the lot. I said, well, we were talking about credit and stuff, and I said, well, you know, my credit went down from 850 down to it's probably right at 800 right now because when I paid off my mortgage, that tanked my credit score a little bit. It's still bigger. My credit score's better than 99% of people in this country right now, and we were kind of bemoaning the price of the payment over 4 years. And the sales guy, he said, this is only this much for 4 years? He said, we got people who have 8-year loans no, not 8-year, whatever the 72 month, I think, is as far as they'll go, I think. But he said they're paying on that for 6 or 7 years, and their payment is like $800 a month. And I'm thinking, well, first of all, either their credit sucks or they're buying too much vehicle for themselves. So, you know me, practical to the end. But you've got to use credit. Don't let credit use you. Don't let it be on top of your head and make every other decision in your life difficult. If you can't afford a $30,000 vehicle, don't look for one in that price range. You're going to have to settle for what you can find within your means. Say if you can only afford a $25,000 vehicle or $20,000 vehicle, you're going to have to look for one within that range. And it may take you longer to find something that you are comfortable with, but you won't be behind the 8 ball for a huge loan period. So that's what I wanted to say. And I still thought it was crazy that in addition to our trade, I put down a few $1,000s in addition to that, after I'd already spent a huge chunk of change in cash for various things. This is why you save money, not just to have it sitting there, but to save it long enough so that you have enough to get what you need without going into long-term debt. Now, I paid off my mortgage a dozen years early. I don't have a house payment. Therefore, I'm going to pay off this a lot earlier. Because, interest rates on new cars can be like 1%, 2%. On used cars, they can be from 7 to 15% or more. One woman said, we were asking some woman at different car lots, why is this sitting here so long? This has been here for a while. It's beautiful. I think it was a Honda Ridgeline or something. And it was bigger than what a mid-sized truck is. But she said, because nobody can get a loan. She said several people have tried to had a loan on this vehicle and nobody could get one. She said, we finally got somebody approved for a loan, but it was 23%. And she said, I said, that must be bad credit. She said, yeah. And he refused to pay 23%. Well, you can do that if you have good credit. And good credit just takes good habits. It takes paying off everything on time. And if you can't pay something one time, make sure that you pay the things that are most important. I'm not a financial advisor, but I know what works and I know why, even though money has run out my door like nobody's business, like I had a fan blowing on it was just flying out the window. We saved it for a long time to be able to do that because we knew this was going to break down, that was going to break down, this is going to cost a lot of money. You got the heat pump, you got a dryer, got the basic dryer. I had to have a dryer that could fit in my closet. And that closet was built in the 90s. Therefore, all the new ones don't really fit. I got the only one that would fit. It just happened to be the cheapest one and the most basic one. But still, several $100s there. And, you clean the roof. The roof cleaning cost a lot because this whole roof, the area on the porches on all 4 sides adds about the same size as the actual roof. I should be not griping because my son, who bought a house in the midst of the COVID housing bubble thing, overpriced house from an investor. And investors, especially during COVID, were doing nothing more than putting lipstick on a pig. They were leaving the main systems alone, even hiding problems with them, making it all look pretty, and people got charmed by the house, and they bought it, and all of a sudden they find that, they have to put on, I don't know, thousands and thousands of dollars for something that you can't avoid doing. So anyway, use money wisely, use credit wisely, It is a tool. That is all it is. It's not meant for you to max out your credit cards buying regular groceries. No one should be doing that. No one. So, that's all I have to tell you. And I just want to kind of check in because I hadn't been here in probably over a week. And nothing spectacular happening. But we were cleaning out the cars the day that before we decided we were going to trade the other one because I knew I could get a lot more on the other trade-in. The CRV, it's very much in demand. It's all-wheel drive CRV. It looks great. But somehow water had gotten into the vehicle, and mice would get in there, and they would come from the engine compartment into the little cubby holes and stuff. And now I find they're eating acorn shells and stuff inside my car. And so I think when my husband washed the thing, he washed the engine inside a few weeks ago, not just this last weekend, but a few weeks ago. I think water got sprayed into the compartment, and that one sits a lot. That one happens to sit. It doesn't get used as much as the other one did, and it sat and sat and sat. And next thing you know, it's condensation in the windows. And I said, "Why is that condensation there? It shouldn't be there unless it's wet inside." He goes, "I don't know." I was like, "Well, I want to investigate." Well, when we went to clean it out, we cleaned the other one. We were not sure we're going to trade first. Then we started cleaning this one. Oh my gosh, it was full of mildew. The seats, the mats, everything was mildew, and the carpet, you could step on it and it would squish. And I went, "Where's the water getting in?" And we thought about it. It has a sunroof, but it doesn't appear to leak. So I couldn't figure out where the water was getting in. Now, that could be the drainage tube is blocked. Now, that would cause it to back up and drip inside the compartment. But we cleaned it out. We finally got it completely clean. And we drove it around, and the electronics that had been flickering, now I think due to the moisture inside, they're not flickering anymore. So what we thought was an electrical issue is apparently not one. So, it was just crazy. I don't know. But anyway, it's cleaned up. We're going to keep that one. It's an all-wheel drive. Now we have 2 all-wheel drives. The new one has stuff on it I just don't, it's foreign to me. Push button start. I don't really care for push button start. It kind of freaks me out. Has the, the backup camera thing, and it had the Sirius XM radio, but it does have AM FM, and my husband said, "I just want FM. We won't pay for a subscription to a satellite radio. We won't do it. That is a useless thing to have." The only thing it doesn't have that I had on my others is a CD player, and I kind of like my CD player occasionally. Although mostly on trips, and we don't go on trips anymore. So that's what I was going to talk about, is just the car debacle. So I had to get myself committed to a debt for a little while. And I did get a good deal. There were no excess fees on there. They didn't play games. It has a really good warranty that comes on all their used cars as long as you own the one you bought from them. And 3 free oil changes, and those things are pretty dang expensive now. It's crazy. What used to be a $25 oil change is now $75 or something. It's crazy because we just did one on the other car that we're keeping. And put all new brakes on it. See, there was another expense I went to, the all new brakes on the other car, the brakes and the oil change on that one. So all the money is flying out. It's still flying out the window, but I think it's about to slow down a little bit for just a little while. There are a lot of things on the list left to do, but we will get to them as we can get to them. And please pray for my gladiolus bulbs. I think I'm going to just lose them all this year. I put blood meal out there. I don't know really what else to do. I don't think it's cutworms. I think, and there's a tunnel, always a hole underneath something's come up through. So it's not cutworms. It's, in this case, it's a critter. The bane of my existence, as a lot of you know. So it's been 24 minutes. I want to check in with you and talk about the credit thing and money management. And I talked to I've mentioned to 2 different people who are very money conscious. And I said, I just hate that. I haven't been in debt for 10 years. I haven't had any debt for 10 years, except for, of course, my mortgage I paid off a couple of years ago. And now that's gone, and I really don't want to get back into debt. But they both said, Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And I was not about to put a new transmission in that car that's worth maybe $3,000 retail. So that's it. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.